When I was growing up, I had problems communicating effectively. I also had trouble understanding directives and interpreting social situations. I had frequent tantrums that included headbanging. I struggled to ride a bicycle, get dressed, and tie my shoes. I stacked VHS tapes to build really high, gargantuan towers in my living room, and I broke a lot of VHS tapes while in the process. I was diagnosed with PDD.NOS, which stands for Pervasive Developmental Disability, not otherwise specified. I received that diagnosis at age 6, along with chronic motor tic disorder. I was diagnosed with ADD years prior. After I was diagnosed with those multiple disabilities, I was almost placed into a cluster away from all the mainstream kids. However, my mom fought and convinced the principal of the school to keep me in mainstream while also attending ESC classes. My computer skills were evolving back then. When I was 5 years old, my mom brought me my first computer. I ended up wiping out all of the windows and settings. I messed up the computer entirely. The computer repairman was so shocked at how much a 5-year-old kid could do so much damage to the settings of a computer. But wait, there's another story to tell. When I was 10 years old, I figured out how to hack into my elementary school server, and I did some really bad things. I rearranged the teacher's files and lesson plans. I finally got caught. I got myself banned, but the school's tech department was really amazed that a 10-year-old kid could figure out so much about servers. When I got into middle school, I was being bullied. I was an outcast. I had a herniated disc, spent a year walking crookedly, and got bullied for that, as well as my social awkwardness, my clumsiness, and my persistent breakout of tics. I'd skip lunch due to bullying and no friends in the cafeteria. At that time, sitting alone and looking like the weird kid who sits alone was not something that I wanted to do. Obviously, I was that weird kid who sat alone, but I didn't want to make it seem more obvious than it already was at that period of time. However, bullying and sitting alone wasn't the only reason why I skipped lunch. I also skipped lunch due to a dislike that I had towards the regulated healthy food. Because of this, I'd sneak out of the cafeteria, get a soda and a few unhealthy snacks from the vending machines. I would then sneak into the school library during lunch hour. I went on the computers. I did get caught a few times, but I'd just sneak right back in again. I was an outcast. No one really knew I existed, and that made it very easy for me to do those sorts of sneaky things. Bullying wasn't the only problem I had in middle school. I also experienced the flaws of the education system. These past unpleasant experiences are what transpired me to do what I currently do, involving my advocacy efforts. I relocated to a small private school called American Preparatory Academy, and there I got the right support, resources, and amazing teachers. My life really was shaped by past unpleasant experiences. The obstacles that I went through motivated me to change and eventually flourish. When I first found out about my autism, I found out through an invitation card for an Autism Speaks walk, which was on the table, It had my mom's signature, and one of the questions on the card was, "Why are you walking?" My mom wrote in, "My son Mathew has autism." I came up to her with the card and asked her about it. She told me. I had self-esteem problems back then, and I resented it. I was angry at myself. I shamed myself due to the bullying. I engaged in self-harm, which included headbanging myself against a wall, hitting and slapping myself. I told myself that I deserved the self-harm and that all of the horrible things that the kids said about me were right. It took me years to rid of the self-harming behaviors. After watching people who were actually on the spectrum talk about it online, as well as reading numerous blog posts about it, I slowly began accepting myself. It took me a few years, but now I can say that I fully accept myself. I'm now 22 years old, and I have made a name for myself on the internet. When I was 17 years old, I started a YouTube channel that has since garnered over 1,000 subscribers. The channel contains videos that vary between me telling my story and me sharing tips that help families and individuals with autism spectrum disorders. This in turn has inspired me to continue with my activism, my computer and filmmaking skills, and to use my creativity to help the autism community.